Yeah,
5432.
but you are not in your normal spot.
Now we're live on Double Funnel TV.
Where are you at? You are in a new spot.
Yeah, I am. I decided to do a remote today.
A remote.
Yeah.
Decided or the decision was made for you?
Well, I keep on, technology is so fabulous. I'd like to, experiment with it.
All right.
You
Well,
know.
you're in charge of today. Today is sales. Are you ready to go?
Yeah. Sorry. Can you hear me? Okay.
Ish,
Uh,
yeah.
I think the issue today is my inner. Oh, you have red headphones too. So you didn't tell the truth when I asked, did you order those?
I was telling the truth at the time, but you said it like on two separate days. And then my new sales guy, you met him in the office, Miguel. Um, I was podcasting, and so he had to leave the room, but we still had other people in the office, and the office was kind of packed that day. And so I was like, you know what? I'll podcast without him. And I gave him my blue ones, and I was like, darn, wouldn't it be great if I had a second pair of headphones?
Yeah. What a great idea.
Isn't that awesome? But yeah, they look way cooler in person than they are even showing up online. I am so
Oh,
excited.
no, they look very cool.
I feel like that I need like some more black eye makeup because it's washing the intensity of the black and red is washing me out.
I just fell.
And he's gone. So we might be doing Friday without Scott here. Let's see what we got going on. I'm gonna try one more time to get Scott. There we go.
There we are. Sorry, my phone fell.
Yeah, I can barely hear you.
You can barely hear me?
Yeah. Let's see. We got Sean over here. This is his mobile remote office. Um,
Well,
Zig's training. I got good at sales, sold my tables.
we got our event tomorrow and it's last minute preps with meetings and conversations and all the different things getting ready for tomorrow. So it's just one of those days. It's just a busy day.
What are you training on tomorrow?
Well, we're going to train a lot on communication. We're going to train a lot on relationships. We're going to train on why people buy and why they don't buy. Um, some is I know Sean's been talking with some of the participants uh, in getting even kind of requests, you know,
Yeah.
and
Do you
so
how many do you have live versus sorry, live. That's the wrong question. How many you have in office versus they're overseas, so they bought the recordings and the live?
well, we have far more on live stream than we do live. Um, we still have room for people to show up live at this point. Um, but the live stream, it's funny. I think we're 4 or 5 countries, uh, and a couple continents. It's kind of cool.
A couple
Um,
continents.
so um, again, anybody who knows Sean or knows me has got a pretty good idea that um, it's going to be more than you assume it's going to be. And part of it is, one of the things that, especially we're kind of making it more of an elite mastermind than actual presentations.
Okay.
We'd rather help people with what they need help with, as opposed to pontificating. And it's kind of like what we work to do here. Um, we've got a lot of expertise across a lot of different things. So to sit there and say, well, we're going to do this, it's not about us. It's
Right.
about the audience, right? So we've got some foundational stuff, some communication stuff, some relationship, some buying behavior things like that.
Yeah.
But we really want to answer the issues for the folks that are either there live or tuning in.
That makes
You know,
sense.
we, I mean, that's more valuable than whatever. And the purpose of a mastermind, and this is what Napoleon Hill um, determined long ago, was a mastermind by definition is when two or more minds come together to create a third and greater mastermind. So it's really about, you've got experiences, I've got experiences, Sean has experiences. Um, we can all have the same uh, challenge put to us, and there's probably going to be three different potential solutions.
Hey, is Scott, hey,
And that,
Sean, since you're on, is Sean, or sorry, Sean, is Scott moving on your
nope.
feed?
Am-
You're moving
My
now.
head's,
For a moment, you were talking, you were just like, but it was still talking. I'm glad we got the sound though, at least, right?
is the audio okay? Can you hear me?
I think Sean can because he's answering and I can hear you. Like I said, just for a moment, I could hear you, but you were just like stuck in this one position. I was like, is he just being really still
Well,
and
I am
using
being
his
very still. It's not
vin?
like I'm moving around a lot in my car seat.
Yeah, but it looked like what is it, a
You want me to
ventriloquist?
do this?
Why not? Well, very cool. I know we picked a topic for today. It was a very tactical sales conversation. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, no, it was really about active listening.
Oh, that's
And
right. Active listening.
active listening is, again, most people don't necessarily understand for some reason. Should be fairly obvious when they look in a mirror. You have two ears and one mouth. It should give you a hint that you should probably listen twice as much as you talk. And in sales, we tend to talk twice as much as we listen, or 10 times as much as we listen. So, what really becomes key is learning to listen. And there's a difference between listening and hearing. Hearing is, a noise comes past and it vibrates and you recognize it as something, but do you really take it in and focus and grab that information? Listening is actually taking in the entire experience, and before formulating a response, gleaning every bit of information you possibly can. So listening, you also listen with your eyes,
That
as an
makes sense.
example.
I feel like that's
Um,
hard to do on these podcasts because I could visually see you on the screen, but if I want my eyes to show, I have to look up at the camera.
right. Yeah, and so, but again, if I ask you a question or we're talking in a sales situation, not only do I need to be looking to hear everything you have to say, but I need to be observing the way you're saying it. You can say, you could say, um, as an example, oh, this product is so awesome. This is just amazing. Oh, yeah, no, it's really going to change my life. And you can have no tone to it, and have your, no eye contact, have no tone connected with it. Now you're telling me that this is all great, but the fact is it's not all great. Now, why would I say that? Because if your words, your tone, your actions, your deeds, if all of that doesn't align, something's out of sync. And more than likely, the words are the things that people quote unquote hear,
Yeah,
but they don't necessarily hear.
that makes
And
sense.
so they don't fight through the um, if somebody says, "Oh yeah, that's great, that's so good," and they're looking away from you, and their words are "that's great," but the other indications that make up the communication are saying it's not so great. And so active listening is really a process to encourage the other person to speak. In selling, the person that is asking the question is in control of the conversation. It's not the person who's talking, it's the person who's asking the question and listening that is truly in control. So when we talk about active listening, it's a process of asking a question, taking a word, a concept, or a phrase from the last answer,
Okay.
creating a new question, and sending it back.
So on that note, because I mean, I know why, but I want to make sure everyone listening is why, because I have a tendency to think, I know I'm terrible at this, but I think sometimes we all are. Why does this matter in sales and marketing? Did you hear me? Are you honking at people? Did you hear me, Scott?
I did not. Say it again.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So what I was saying, um, before you like we get too far deep into this, I have a tendency to believe that I know I'm bad at this, but I think we all are, especially the higher level you get, that you talk about something and we don't say why they need it. So we're talking about active listening, but why is active listening important to sales and marketing?
All of a sudden, sorry, all of a sudden the audio on my end kicked out. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
That's so weird. I'm having a hard time hearing you all of a sudden. Sorry. So repeat what you said. I'm sorry.
In the short of it, why is active listening important to sales and marketing?
Do me a favor, knock me off and bring me back on.
Well, then we are having this is what happens when you try to go live from your car. Let's not do this again. Let's try this again. Does that work?
It's so frustrating to me
I'm
that
gonna guess
what
you
should
can't
be
hear
good
me.
technology is not working well.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Oh, I think I can hear you better.
Let's see if I can do this. Why is typed it
It's
out?
just I'm trying to hook up a headset. I'm sorry. It's like crazy.
Can you hear me? Got a headset? No. All right, Scott. No more live streaming from the car. All right, so Sean answered his question. It connects better with the audience or connects with the audience so much better. I think we lost Scott again. Love to elaborate on that since we've lost Scott.
And we're live again,
Oh, you're live again. We've been live.
except you're frozen.
I'm good. It's operating. Frozen to you. Breathe. Need to fill in. Sean, where are you to be
Give me
live when we need you?
a thumbs up or something if you can hear me, but you're frozen. That's the problem.
You need better internet, Scott. Yeah, Sean, we need you to fill in. I might like legitimately. Let me go over and find Sean here. Send a message to Sean to save the day. We'll see what we got. So, sales, active listening, and all that jazz. Not my jam. In his office. I've got. I don't know much about active listening. Listening is not my jam, man. Oh, look at this. Yay. If I can't have one, I'll get the other.
Hey,
Sean, talk to us about active listening.
Well, since we can't hear anyone.
Man, sometimes the world just comes in and says, not today.
So, active listening, pretty amazing.
Why is that? Are you getting made fun of in your own office? Just comes in and says, not today.
So,
oh, this is a clustered mess today.
pretty amazing.
Why is that? Sean, can you not hear me live?
I don't know where I'm hearing you. I'm hearing the delay, so I don't know if it's inside of P Live.
Wow. I think we might call it a day on today. Today gave up. Can you hear me now that Scott beamed out?
Yes, I can.
So it was really the problem with Scott.
So it could be. I need to put a headset on because of the... And it all popped up when we said active listening. It's that damn active listening crap.
You know what? Maybe that's a signal that I should not listen. All right, Sean, why should we listen actively?
Are you hearing the reverb?
Yes.
Okay, so
You know what? Maybe that's a signal that I should not listen. I get to hear myself. This is a clustered F mess funnel. What the funnel? Actively. I told myself I wouldn't curse live. I would say, what the funnel?
Are you hearing the reverb? So I need to. Okay. So I'm just because I don't want to keep talking and it just keeps coming back over and over and over again.
Clustered F mess.
Yeah.
What the funnel? I told myself I wouldn't curse live. I would say, what the funnel?
What the funnel?
What the funnel? So you can't actually hear me live.
I can hear you live, yes.
Oh, you can. So you have me live and you have the reverb?
Oh, so let me just do this.
Just turn one
There
off.
we go. Good Lord.
Now you're good. You were trying to be complicated.
So
you were distracted by all that active listening.
Yes, I was absolutely distracted and not smart enough to just close the Facebook page. So active listening, it's exactly what happens in this is that when we hear things, we need to let somebody know that we're hearing them and they need to know that they're being heard. Active listening just doesn't mean you hearing the stuff coming out of their cake hole. It means you're actually physically responding to the things that are happening in their life in that moment.
And I feel like this was just the perfect example of what happens when there's not great listening.
It's absolutely right. And here's the thing. Most people think they can multitask. This also just proves you can't even listen to two conversations of the same stuff. That's how big of a distraction it is. So active listening really means you have to focus. It's one of the hardest techniques and tools that salespeople need to learn is because it's not what they're saying, it's what they're not saying is why they're going to buy or not buy. It's called micro inflections and micro gestures.
Micro inflections and micro gestures.
So just like I knew you were about to lose it, that's why I said I'm going to fill in. I want you. Yes, exactly. When you grabbed your mic just like that, and you're like, we're not doing lives from the car anymore. I'm like, oh God, somebody needs to get down there. I
You
can't
lost your
grab there
sound.
fast enough. Let me jump on, because this was just who you were. You can't hear me? Can you hear me? No, don't
Can
tell
you
me.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can't hear you.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
And I almost feel like this is a joke. This is like a test on active listening.
Swear to goodness, I'm like right here.
Where's a towel? I have paper towels. It's throwing in the towel.
Can you not hear? You cannot hear me.
Let me try one more thing.
How
Can I
about
hear you
now?
now? No!
Yes, no?
Wait, yay!
This is totally the universe. This is a training in active listening. I'm asking every minute, can you still hear
Can
me?
you hear me? And wait, look at Rayanne. I can hear both of you. What's wrong with you crazy people? All righty.
So now this one's going to take you out of your comfort zone, but this is literally the universe conspiring against us to keep, because all of this never happened before. I've done lives from cars.
Never.
Right? So
Ever.
So here's what happened. This topic is so powerful that literally there's a part of the world that doesn't want this to happen, that isn't wanting this information out. This is, you can use spirits or whatever, but this is literally, it's the universe conspiring to say you should stop. And here's the difference. Here's the entrepreneurial spirit. We did not stop. We laughed through it. And we keep trying because we won't unplug, because we could easily throw in the towel.
Oh, I could have thrown in the towel. I was giving up 10 minutes ago.
Oh, I know you were. Because again, the active listening that I have, here's the good news. It's not what you say. It's what you're not saying. And that's the challenge, is that you can tell when somebody's about to blow, and I could tell you were about to blow. You're like, your face, your whole face, you couldn't hide it. Yeah, we're not going to do lives from cars anymore, right? So why is this so important? Two things. One, you will see things you will never hear. I believe in a philosophy, who you are speaks so loud, I don't need to hear what you're saying.
That's true.
Secondly, the fact that somebody, when you can call them on their stuff, kind of like I said, when I saw you grab your mic, I knew you were blowing, and you're like, oh my God, I did that? You knew that? Because here's what happened. The amygdala kicked off. And when the amygdala kicks off, when we get into a fight or flight situation, the limbic system, the hypothalamus, all of this stuff just, and all of this happened. There are no words in the limbic system. There's only fight or flight.
Grr.
And so your prefrontal cortex shuts down. You said, I will never swear on a live. Your prefrontal cortex shut down and went, what the funnel?
Oh, see, my croc brain does have words. They're just a string of F-bombs. What I think is interesting is coming from the military, I had tons of psychological evaluations. They try to put you, you take all these tests, they put you in all these boxes. Neurolinguistic program is a product of the military. I don't know that most salespeople know that. It was not built for sales. It was built for interrogations. So I know it, but I know it from a very different side of neurolinguistic programming. I should probably take a sales version of it, right? But one of the things that I find really interesting, no matter how many times I took the different exams around neurolinguistic programming, no matter what kind of proctor I had, it never mattered. I flagged, failed, F-bombed it all every single time on listening. I am not a listening girl. I don't trust it. I don't know if that's because of experience. I don't know if it is genetic, but verbal listening, I don't hear. I don't care about it. I don't trust it. I trust what I can see. I trust what I can feel in the room. I trust my experience and logic. So my logic and my kinesthetic were off the charts, and visual was pretty high up there too. But, audio, man, bam, way down here, because it is that active listening. Your face to me tells me so much more than any words that come out of your mouth. You can lie to me, right? But I can see it in your face, in your eyes, in your actions, in the way you choose to use your time, what you're really saying, for lack of a better terminology.
Well, and so here's the thing. The first 7 seconds that we're meeting somebody, we make no fewer than 105 decisions about that person and spend the rest of our life trying to figure out, were we right in our confirmation of it.
You say 105 in 7
105
seconds?
decisions we make it with what you would call the alligator brain. 105 decisions minimal we are made in the first 7 seconds. That's why people can't remember people's damn names, because they're too busy making their prejudgment about them.
I am bad with names.
Because you have this ability, we all do, women specifically, especially when being introduced to men, you have this tendency to, the brain looks for two things. Will it kill me, or will I recognize a pattern? And since there's no pattern with this new person, we're trying to defend, will it kill me, and how do I protect myself? And what decisions do I make at a subconscious level and a subroutine level? Who can I match them to in my life? That's why we go, I don't like this person. And it's like based upon everybody else in your life you didn't like.
I do know that. Like the people who have been the most dangerous in my life, when I am actively meeting someone for the first time, if they look or act like them, especially like when they're super close, my brain immediately goes, no, go that way. They could be the biggest teddy bears.
And that's called active listening. It's not active with our ears. It's active with our eyes, our hearts, our emotion. Here's the other thing to be aware of. Active listening, our entire world, the entire world that exists as you see it, as you see your world, it only takes 2 to 3% of your brain. Your entire world is interpreted by 2 to 3% of your brain. Therefore, 97% of what runs your life is happening at a subroutine. This is why we say trust our gut. Our gut is actually as smart as the smartest dog that you could think of, because it has neurons in it and it has brain neurons. But that gut feeling comes from your heart. So active listening isn't with your eyes. It is.
You try to say like, okay, so I'm a gut person. I've used that. And of course, people who are highly logical are like, that's a terrible way to make decisions. But you're kind of insinuating that the gut is basically your brain already knows the answer.
So the Heart Meth Lab out of California does research on heart variance and heart coherence. They scientifically just released a report, scientifically, logically. So I'm speaking to your logic brain. We put the woo woo outside the red room for just now. We're speaking to your logic brain. They say they can predict your decision 15 seconds before you make it, because your heart knows this. Your heart sends more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. And the only way you get this gut feeling is that your heart sent information to the brain and it went down the vagus nerve and into your gut, and you got that knot, you got that this, you got that whatever. Anytime you feel this in your body, your brain is not your body, but it's connected to your body, and your heart controls it all. There's 40,000 neurons in the heart that aren't connected to anything. They're still not sure what they do.
Wait, what?
There's 40,000 neurons that reside inside of your heart that are not connected to anything else.
Now, they have said that, so being pregnant 3 times, when you get pregnant, like you just start doing all this research, right? And I think by the time you're pregnant for the 3rd time, you still do research, but now you've already done it twice, right? So now you're researching new stuff, right? And one of the things that had come out was a documentary on babies, based on not like 1,000 babies, like tens of thousands of babies, right, that they've monitored, and then from all walks of life. So they go, and actually one of my doctors was for a study, so I got to see how they kind of pull babies in. But they chose all walks of life, so not just the babies who get taken care of, right, with families who can take them to the appointments regularly, but also babies in adoption centers, and not just in America, but some of these countries that are really poor. So their adoption centers and their foster homes are bad, right? And one of the things they did was the baby's brain, like a newborn's brain, all the neurons fire. And they can tell the difference between every monkey they see, every dog they see, every possum they see, every human they see. But because it's not needed and they don't see, monkeys every day, that those neurons kind of go off and disconnect, and they focus on the humans.
Yes.
And then if you don't have human interaction at the level that you should in the first 5 years, when all these neurons are deciding which ones to connect and which ones to disconnect, they never connect. You can't even fix it later in life without, I listen to somebody like David Goggins and I'm like, maybe you can, but exceptional work has to be done, right? But I'm wondering if those 40,000 don't come from that kind of same idea that we didn't use them young, so they just cut off.
So as an instructor of self-talk, one of about 150 in the world, I'll say this: everything that's ever been said to you, anything you've ever said, has been recorded in your brain. That which you repeat on a regular basis becomes permanent. So here's what happens.
I agree with that.
The brain looks for two things: will it kill me, or how fast can I recognize the pattern? Since a baby has no idea of what it needs to be aware of, it is constantly and cognitively aware of everything. And therefore, as you said, the study shows about 284 billion connections are happened while a baby is growing up.
That's why they do this all the time.
Exactly. They're trying to figure out their range, their reach. They're also becoming addicted to approval at this moment. Because when babies start to laugh and we go, oh, isn't this good? Or they start to cry and they go, please be quiet. That energy flows through. So this whole thing, that study, I also think when it talks about the nurseries from the Ukraine, when the wars were happening and all these babies were in the Ukraine adoption centers, nurseries, if you will, all they did was walk in and feed them. When these babies got adopted, they couldn't understand love. They had to learn love. So all of this cognitive ability happens at an instant, and it all relates back to active listening. How you were raised is how you did everything is how you'll do everything. So you have the ability to change, but here's what it takes to change. It takes leaving first base. You've got to step up. It is hard.
I'm a big fan. I'll drop the link here, but I was amazed reading David Goggins' book recently, because most people do not have the negativity in the life that I've had, especially growing up. And I feel like I got a little lucky. My mom didn't go straight crazy until I was 5 or 6. Most people cannot beat me on crazy. My family's got that. So when I meet people who can say that, and I'm reading his book, I just wanted to die. I was like, and knowing all the studies that I've read and reading how early he was exposed to such a high level of trauma from his own freaking dad, and the ability and how much work, though, it took to change it. It takes so much work to change it. And so often when I hear the stories where somebody has come over it, they are military stories. And I don't know if that's because the military is where we run to get out of those bad situations, or if it's the military just has, they have the most hardcore process for taking a lump of clay, breaking it down to water, and building it back up again, right? And maybe it's both. Well, but it takes that much effort. You have to be locked in a freaking dorm room for 8 weeks or more to change, where somebody dictates what you're going to do.
Well, here's the thing. The military has been able to compress time, right? I don't know David Coggin. I don't know if he went through military, but if he had,
he's a Navy SEAL.
So here's, oh yes, is that the one, You Can't Hurt Me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So here's the thing. There are people who have gotten out. I was talking with a woman yesterday, 27, on drugs, has become successful in network marketing, but on drugs, and she locked herself in her room in the back of a trailer in the bedroom because there was an IV sitting on the table. And she used to get high every morning. Her husband would leave and she would get high every morning. And one day she stayed in the room. It was so hot that she wouldn't even leave the room. Now, on a trailer, you have the little collapsible door.
Right.
It's not like you could lock yourself in there. I say this to say, it's the day you've had enough. The day you've had enough is when you decide that boot camp is better than the fire I'm in. When the fire I'm jumping out of the pan, it's got to be better than the fire I'm in. It's the day you've had enough. The other time that happens is when a grandfather who's smoking 4 packs of cigarettes a day and the granddaughter, grandson grabs his leg and says, Papa, don't die, stop smoking. And they decide to stop in an instant. It's all emotional based. It got wired in emotionally, and it can get unwired emotionally. When a woman has children, your brain is different than any other woman who has not had children.
Literally.
They call it mommy brain. They call it mommy fog. I can only imagine you prior to your children. And I say this with love and respect because you had to be a witch on a broomstick.
You know what? I won't say that, but I feel like, we were in marriage counseling, and the marriage counselor the first day was trying to determine who we are. Because of my mom, now, from a hormonal side point, no, I've only been a mom since I actually had kids, but I've been raising kids since I was 6.
So instantly, so again, your brain formation still happens up until age 25. So when they say whatever you're going to do by age 7, you're pretty much locked in. No, that number has grown since through technology and understanding of the brain. But at 6, you lost a lot of the things that a normal child would do. So you grew up way too fast, right? And in growing up way too fast, it wasn't that I'm pretty much the same way. I wasn't raising kids, but I grew up on a farm, and a lot of the stuff that I do with Mason, are the first time I've ever been roller skating was with my son. First time I ever had like an ice cream party was with my son. Grew up on a farm. There was no beating or no. It was farm work.
Farm. I've been on a farm. Yeah, we had a farm.
So all I'm saying is that who you are shows up every day in who you are becoming. Active listening requires us to be, first and foremost, actively listen to ourselves, because we reveal things to ourselves on a daily basis we just put off. The fact that I knew you were blowing up when this whole thing with Scotty, who we absolutely love. We love Scotty.
I love him.
But I watched you physically changed. Physically on camera. You go back and watch it. And I'm like, okay, I wouldn't normally jump in. I'm not gonna. This thing will work out. But it was going. It not only circled the drain. Somebody was hanging on by their fingertips, and most people wouldn't know it. Most people would just hear that inflection. But I'm like, inside you was like an inside Scott, and his like, I need to serve. Anyways, all that being said, you started raising kids at 6. Then you became a mom
at 17.
At 17. So again, still
even before yeah.
So all of this to say, so there's a part that runs in the back of your brain remember, 2 to 3% of your brain interprets this whole world. Your programming is wired in there, right? The good news is there's neuroplasticity. The only way that you've been able to adapt and adopt is because you've grown new neurons, new neural pathways. Through an fMRI, you can actually see these new neural pathways growing.
I think Rayanne talks about those too. She teaches them in a way of physical pain. You're talking about them as like also in your actions. Totally.
We can only do what we know.
That's true. And I've actually told lots of people, especially kids struggling, like, I know life's bad now. I can't fix your parents. But what I can tell you is do really good in school, read every book you can, and make great connections with your teachers and other positive adults around you. Because you can't live a life you don't know exist.
Well, and here's the other thing. They went to the inner cities of Chicago where math skills are not usually the best topic in school. What they did was they without any additional training, they took about 1,000 kids whose math scores were below failure, and they walked them through this little training. And this little training, they walked them through about an hour of pre-setup prior to taking the test. They had them take a test, and then they had them take them the equivalent difficulty test, and their scores went up by 48% on average.
Wow.
They didn't teach them math. You want to know what they taught them? Who do you know that's good at math? When you go to take the test, put their head on and take the test.
Wait, what? Isn't that some like Think and Grow Rich mind?
What happens is that here's the reality. Any difficulty that we are all faced with, we know the answer. We're just afraid if we answer it, we'll become greater, and we're going to disappoint somebody who said we shouldn't have that greatness. So active listening, when we actively listening, what the key to actively listening is, what do we hear that they're not saying that's keeping them stuck? Our prospect, our customer, our this. So they had these children say, who do you know that's smart? Who do you love? Who's your superhero? Who's that person you look up to? And some of them put Superman on their head. Some of them put Wonder Woman on their head. Some of them put their grandfather, who they absolutely love, right? Because they didn't really have a home life. And they went and took the test, and their score averages went up on average of 48% without ever teaching them math. They know the answers. We start to live to the level of everybody else's expectation. And so active listening is so. How about now?
No. I'm just going to assume that we can all hear you. The active listening like died again. One more time. One more time.
I like the little
Maybe.
bells.
I just keep going. Superman. Yeah. That's where I lost you at.
Okay, so they put Superman on their head. They put Wonder Woman on their head. They put their grandfather, because maybe their home life isn't this. So the person that they look up to, just by putting that person on who they admired, their scores went up. Just by doing that.
Try going over to the live feed, and I'm going to listen to you, because I think I can hear you. I think everyone else can hear you, and I can't hear you.
Okay, so just check, because I'm not going to open the live feed because it'll start putting noise again out.
It's like the strangest thing with Be Live today. Have no idea what's going on.
So, all that being said, who do we admire? Who knows the answer? Who's got the solution to what we're looking for? And if we just said, yeah.
Wow, I don't think I have any sound.
I can hear you perfectly. Is Ryan still there? Can she hear us? Seriously. See, it's the universe conspiring.
I think everyone can hear you. I'm going to bet they can hear me, because Rayanne said they could.
Okay, good. So
I don't know what's going on, but I can't hear. Let me try one more thing.
Conspiring. So here's the reality.
Oh my God, that worked.
Around a lot. I'm in different places.
Can I hear you now?
Yes, I can hear you. You know what? You look totally different without your headset on. I'm like, I literally looked over and I went, wait a minute, when did I go to the swimsuit channel? And
yeah, that's it.
So here's the reality. The key is that we can only hear what we are allowing ourselves to exceed to. I can tell you you're great. I just told you that we just switched over to the swimsuit model, and you're like, yeah, right. You can't hear that I said you're beautiful. It's hard for you to hear that.
I know I'm not good at it. I haven't been good at it. I remember I balked at a compliment when I was 18 years old.
Yep.
And my military friends, because I was with like 9 different guys, it's military, right? And they were like, why can't you just accept the compliment? I was like, I don't feel comfortable hearing it. I don't believe you. And so they just told me, like, don't be like everybody, all the other girls. Just say thank you and move on. I can do that. So normally I'm just like, oh, thank you. And I'll just move on.
So I'm going to give you a study later on. It doesn't relate to this topic, but specifically for parents.
Okay.
That will logically scare the bejeebies out of you, and possibly be emotionally strong enough to allow you to make some changes that would enhance a variety of worlds in your life. So we'll talk about that at another time. but it's science. So active listening. What can you do to improve it? Be focused. It's okay to take notes. It's okay to take notes, and it's okay to tell somebody, listen, you know what? I'm going to take some notes when you're talking, because if there's something that comes up that triggers me, I want to make sure I write it down. So it's not that I'm not paying attention, and maybe if you use your phone, you got to tell them, because the perception is reality. They see you taking a note on the phone, they're going to think you're doing what? Texting.
And
you can actually show them, say, hey, listen, I'm just taking notes here. So I want you to, this is important to me. Right? Because again, this is distraction. And if they have kids, they're going to go, oh my God, I can't believe this person's freaking texting. They're checking their Facebook out while I'm trying to buy something from them. So active listening also requires open dialogue. And open dialogue means you got to let them know that they're important. To assume that they're important, I teach in my sales. Again, I'm a nutcase. I'm a totally off the field. There's very few people that think what I do makes sense because it's not traditional. But I'll sit down with a customer and a prospect. I don't care if it was a CEO or CMO of a Fortune 100 company. They've called me in, flew me in, sat me down. They're paying a big bunch of money per hour, and I ask them, why am I here?
That's an interesting way to do it. Instead of trying to presume, just ask them, why am I here?
Why am I here? Tell me what you want me to do in the next hour. Tell me what would be beneficial to this relationship in the next 45 minutes that we could accomplish, because you've got a hard stop, I have a hard stop. And when you decide that if we can get that done before the hard stop, we may be able to go on with a soft go. So what do you want? What are 3 things that you would like out of this conversation? Because I can promise you I can deliver it. But if I got to guess it, there ain't a chance in heck of beans that I'll ever get it right. And you'll leave this conversation going, nice guy, but really doesn't get what I need. And I'll go, man, I delivered my best. I don't know why they didn't buy.
Oh my gosh. That's a knowledge bomb right there. Well, because when consultants come in, like first they call themselves consultants, right? Which I think says absolutely nothing. And I will even say that was some of the feedback that we got on Tuesday from Scott talking to the networking group was they had no idea what y'all were going to be talking about. So they were reluctant to buy for Saturday because they didn't know what you were going to cover. They didn't know what the outcomes were, right?
Right.
But I think also, like, as consultants, we want so bad to project what we think is best on the client, but just asking the client, how can I help you best? Which part of my brain can I take out of a box and leave with you?
Well, yeah, so here's the thing. My daddy would always say this. We all have experience we can't buy, but we paid for.
One way or the other.
And the only reason anybody would ever pay us anything is for our experience. They can't pay us for some future thing. There's plenty of books out there and tapes and audios and other events they could go to that they could go dream with. Nobody wants to dream if they're paying you. They go, give me some damn actions to get my button gear so that I can get going. So what 3 things? And here's the challenge. Everybody knows what the next thing is, because when we give them the action, they go, see, I knew that. That's exactly what I got to do. Will you hold me accountable? That's all they're really asking is the decision I already have pre-assumed, the pre-assumption, is it the right one? Will you confirm it? I'll pay you a lot of money to confirm my decision. Well, Sean, that's impossible. They hired you to consult with them. Consultants are the highest paid people that tell everybody exactly what they need to do, and they get paid to make sure people, and they pay people so they don't have to implement it. 90% of consulting is they never do it. We'll get to it. We'll put that in a plan. Our budgets run out, but yes, these are all good things. Thanks. I'll sign off on it. Here's your check.
Huh.
There's very few people. You're one because you are a powerhouse of a woman and you're like, you take no crap. But consultants aren't so confident enough that they will say, listen, if you don't implement this, I ain't getting paid. Tell me one consultant who's got the chutzpah to go do that, because they can't even actively listen to the customer, because all they can go with is what they got, not what they need. There's 2 ways to train. Let me tell you what I know. The other way is let me ask you what you need, and I will develop all of the resources, talent, and capabilities in my total Rolodex. Dated myself. You have all access to all of that. Let's get this done.
No, I like that, and I can tell you're very passionate about this particular subject. You can hear it in your voice. You're like leaning forward. You're getting
so you
aggressive.
do hear. Well, but this is because this is if we just Darren Hardy talks about the power of 90 minutes. Everybody else has talked about the power of 90 minutes. But here's the problem. We all talk about Pavlov's dog, right? Ring a bell and they will come.
What is the power of 90 minutes?
Well, 90-minute blocks. So the brain can only do stuff. But if you focus for 90 minutes, total focus, it's called power blocks. And in 90 minutes, you focus without a distraction, because here's the thing, any slightest distraction. See where we're at right now in this conversation? If I look up, yep, we're 20 minutes past where this whole catastrophe started. It takes 22 to 25 minutes to get back on track when you have the slightest distraction. You're working, typing a paper, and up pops a Facebook thing. Somebody liked your post. And you go back to work. 20 minutes it takes you to get back focused.
See, I think the one that I heard is some anonymous donor has paid for military members and their spouses to get brain training from the Brain Institute or Institute for Brain,
Dr.
whatever,
Amen.
down in Dallas. And I believe their study says 50 minutes. 50, 55, you should do 2 major, they call them elephant tasks. So your big tasks that you must get done, schedule them in 50, 55-minute blocks. And in between, they do a slightly different thing. They said, you have to take a break. They did say the same thing. It takes your brain a while to get back on task. But then they said, take a 5-minute brain dump to do nothing. Like your brain must do nothing for 5 minutes every so often. And that is how you can get back to sleep at night. So, when we lay down and our brain goes like 100 miles a minute, that is because we don't have those 5-minute blocks of nothing. Because that is where the white matter between the croc brain and the executive decision brain is being made. And that's where it downloads everything. So they're like, stare outside for 5 minutes. Stare at some artwork. Do it in 50-minute blocks. Make sure you get your 2 elephants done first. Before the cell phone, before the emails, before any of that, get your elephants done first and then work on the little rabbits. They call them rabbits. The little bitty things that can be done faster.
And so what you've just said is, again, collaborates the information, because the fact that there's a ding on a phone, right? While I'm looking here and I'm looking straight in the camera, my phone lights up. Sean, but listen, there's 4 million bits of information that come in per eye, 2 million bits of information per eye. That's just in your eyes. You have about 60 million bits of information that happen in a minute that come through your body. Right now, if I ask you, every one of you listening, can you feel the chair you're sitting in or whatever you're sitting on? Can you feel it on your butt? Why didn't you feel it 3 minutes ago? Why wasn't it a cognitive awareness? Because it wasn't life-threatening, or there was the pattern it recognized. That's your butt in a seat.
Yep.
But until we brought motion to it, until we brought ideas to it, now everybody's going to go, oh, yeah, I am wearing my wallet. I should take that out. Or what the hell?
You got that Costanza lean?
Yes. So what happens is that distraction, that's exactly what it is. And here's the real big problem. We can't call it a distraction unless we had traction in something else. Most people never have the traction. You don't get to call it a distraction. It's just your day. When you decide to finally get traction, and sorry.
Cheers, Mom.
You cannot call it a distraction if that's your day. Squirrel, that's your day. You have when you do your elephant task, your 55 minutes, your block, you chunk that out and nothing else matters. Because here's the thing. If you don't do it, it won't get done. If you say, I don't have the time, and then the whole thing, I can hear everybody's brain screaming, going, stare 5 minutes into the window. Do you know how much I could get done in 5 minutes? You know how much you're not getting done by not doing it?
You know what?
The book called Playing Full Out talks exactly about that. You have to have that disconnect. And it can't be, I'm done writing my paper, let me check emails. No.
What was the name of the book?
It'd be better if you call The Power of Full Engagement. It'd be better if you called a friend and laughed. Literally, it would be better if you called a friend and laughed. Total disengage, right? Drop the 40-foot trailer off over here and take the truck on for a run and go for some joy.
That's interesting. That you could probably get more done by calling a friend, like literally calling.
Which is so sometimes we have what are called unconscious competence.
Yeah.
That's me as it relates to that, because I'll text a friend, it'll pop into my head. It's kind of a way of my safety mechanism. If I'm having a bad day, a frustrating moment, somebody will pop into my head that I need to go just send love to, and I'll send them a text saying, I was thinking about you, love you tons, miss you bunches. Send it without the intent to receive. Now all of a sudden, guess what comes back? Oh my God, you made my day. You make me smile, smiley face. And again, I'm re-engaged. Okay, this is who I am. This is who people see me as. But we don't ask enough. You want to have some, you want to get some chutzpah, you want to have some cojones today? Go ask your audience. Go post on Facebook. How do you think I am as a listener?
Let's, since we're going to go there, let's try that out. So I'm totally ADD, ADHD. I actually do better on the ADD test now because I've spent, what is it, 20 active years actively trying to find ways to be better. So you said, how am I as a listener?
Reply in the comments.
Listener.
Now, here's the thing. This is what always makes it easier, because remember, so here's the active listening. Is somebody going to listen to this comment? Let's just use it as a training. Don't post it yet because there's something else we need to add to it. Okay. Yeah, hang on to it. So here's why. Do you think somebody's listening to this comment?
What do you to the Facebook post?
Yeah, that post you just put up. Do you think somebody's going to listen to it? Yes, because they're going to read it and say it in their head. The challenge is, are they going to say it in their words? If I see that on your post, I hear your words saying it. I hear your voice saying it.
I do that.
Right? When somebody else reads that who may not be an active listener and may not understand the question, they'll hear their words and they're going to respond in their own way. There's going to be two kinds of responses that are going to come up from this. I'm going to make a prediction. There's going to be, yes, you're amazing. Then we need to look back and do a refresh on it and go, do they like me? Are they an active listener? If you know them, are they an active listener? They're going to say, well, you could do this. I promise you, because of your level of influence, you're probably, unless somebody can call you on your stuff, the responses you're going to get from this are going to be pretty much all wonderful responses. You're amazing. You're so good. You drive me. You help me. But here's the other part I want you to put in there. How am I as an active listener? I was challenged by a mentor of mine. Just, we're friends, get that. But just put it in there, because all of a sudden that changes it. What you're doing is you'll find out that the answers will be the common enemy. Now the responses will be against me versus you. And what I mean by that is, well, yes, you're a good listener. He said you're not. They won't say that. That's what's going in their head. You get this?
Mm-hmm.
This is the psychology of this, is taking a three-dimensional conversation and putting it into a two-dimensional post. And this is where active listening, the responses are going to be so amazing. So go ahead and hit send now.
There we go. And then how to hit the word share. Can't just hit enter. I got my emojis in there too.
So all this to say, again, we're having a little science lab here. We just put a little test. We just put a little petri dish out there.
This should be interesting. And so I've actually, over the last 2 years, been learning how to work with the algorithm and get the most people to comment, right, and interact and engage. I'm remembering I'm not an intuitive people person. Everything I've ever done has been reading it in a book, watching other people who are great people persons, and then trying to do it on my own. And I've been literally doing this since 2009, arguably since I was 15, and I don't even know what year that was. But I actually feel like I get more comments than normal people, right? And on top of that, in the last 24 hours, we started doing the one funnel away challenge with ClickFunnels. I feel like I'm, coercing, what's the word? Consorting with the enemy a little bit, right? Having worked with Kyvio as a client. But I've probably done 50 friend requests. I have 50 new people looking at my feed right now, and all my posts are public. I don't post anything privately. And at one point I was like, because one person told me never to take friend requests unless I made them, because he's like, it's just going to be salespeople. And this time I was just like, you know what? Screw it. Until I hit 5,000, who cares? At 5,000, I'll go to the very bottom of my list and I'll delete some. So what I'm saying here, I think I'll get more comments, but I'm curious to see. I think Randy will be honest. Randy's always honest. My husband's going to see the question. He's going to be like, not touching it with a 10-foot pole. Are you stupid?
So again, but see, here's the thing. Part of us, what most people fail to recognize is that anybody who comments on a post is publicly speaking. Even a like is public. I've heard numbers that for every one that likes, there's 10 eyeballs that ran through and saw it and didn't do anything with it. Right?
Okay.
So why I think you get a lot more likes than you think you should, or more than others, is because I heard Frank Kern say it. I'm sure somebody else said it beforehand.
Oh, Frank said it. It's true, right?
Right. But what I really liked about it is something that I had a hard challenge with doing is polarize to magnetize.
Oh, polarization. That was actually, so yesterday, the step of the One Funnel Away challenge I did was, what are your greatest fears? And I actually posted them publicly in the group. I'll debate posting them on my blog, or somewhere, or maybe on my Mom Boss influencer blog. But one of them was making enemies. I'm at that crossroads where I've hit the point, and I only want to move forward with people who are action takers. And if somebody's going to floggle around, I don't even know if that's a word, floggle, they can't focus, they've got to go. You're either part of the plan or you're not. If you're not going to do the work, you're gone. You're not going to pay me as a client and somebody else will. I'm sorry, it's your enemy, but you're gone. Sometimes doing that, you make powerful enemies, or people who make a point to be your enemy. So that was my fear. I need to make a few pivots. I will make enemies.
So
to polarize.
I love what Noah said, and this was on our first interview together. We talked about Noah St. John, and he said in his book Secret Code to Success, he starts off, he says, I'm gonna make hamburger out of some of the sacred cows of personal development.
I'm going to make hamburger
out of some of the sacred cows of personal development.
Oh, that's nice.
Right? Find your whys, find your this, and all of that stuff is just.
And Noah's a spitfire.
He is.
I didn't get to know him until you kept saying his name. I was like, he's on my friends list. Let's give him a call. John, he's a spitfire.
He's actually going to be speaking in Dallas at our convention, the ANMP in Dallas here, May 30th through the 2nd.
Nice.
Ruthless plug. So here's the thing. I am starting to polarize, and it's polarizing with just being vulnerable. And so I put a post out the other day saying personal development doesn't work 100% of the time, because you have to undevelop. You can't develop what you have. That's why you're taking personal development. Most people are afraid to leave with what they have. So it's this addiction to approval that keeps 80% of books and tapes not opened, right? Or not used or listened to. So I had one of my first haters say, well, I totally disagree with this. And I'm like, my heart went, I'm like, somebody doesn't like me. And then I read it, and at the end of it, she says, and I put my trust in God. I'm like, you know what? Totally agree with that, but God really has a book that most people disagree with, so why won't more people follow the Bible and blah, 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 blah. I love your perspective. So when you end a fight with, and I love you, it's kind of hard to fight back. It's unfair on my part. But it was interesting that post got a hater. And I'm like, cool. So here's how I look at it. Cool. It's starting. Because if you're not pissing somebody off, you're not stretching enough.
Well, you know what? I think the first time I kind of felt that burn a little bit is Tony Robbins. He had the issue with the Me Too movement. One of his followers, one of his raving fans, stood up and was like, now, Tony, I don't agree with that particular comment you made. I love you. But I think he was saying something about the Me Too movement was like victimhood mentality or something of that nature. And a rape survivor gets up and he's like, I love you, but I don't agree with that. This is about this. And he got very forceful and aggressive with her and pushed her back, which afterwards I kind of saw that's him. But the part that actually made me really angry was he told a story about a very wealthy male client who was hiring 3 women I'm sorry, hiring for someone, and the one who was most qualified was a woman. And the guy did not hire her because he was afraid that there might be a Me Too issue in the office. And he let him go with that and didn't say shit. So he's calling out a Me Too movement as being victimhood, but he's not calling out his rich male client for not hiring the right person because he has a victimhood mentality. And so I wrote him a 2-star review. I was like, love the work you do, love the mentality. I love how many F-bombs you drop. But I think I think you should reconsider this. I know it's hard to tell rich, powerful men no, but have some dignity. And I mean, it was saucy. It's Sunday. I'm stuck. I've got kids in my arms and, they're on iPads, so I didn't have nothing. I got so much hate. And in my mind, I know the algorithm, so I started trolling the trolls and just getting over it. And it was amazing. Like 80 comments in, and you realize your review is the #1 on Tony Robbins. Because I trolled the trolls. And once you get over the trolls, and once you can figure out how to love the trolls, understand how they can actually help you on social media, how they can help bring your audience. I think Trump supporters are like one of the most perfect examples. Love him or hate him, I'm not talking about that. If somebody says something negative about Trump, it doesn't make a Trump supporter or an Obama supporter or a Clinton, they're all the same to me. It doesn't make them dislike.
How can you say they're all the same?
It does, but they're supporters. It doesn't make them dislike that person at all. It makes them dig their heels in and love them more.
It's called the theory of the common enemy. So
that's a hard one to play by, but it works.
Well, yeah. When 9/11 happened, more money was raised in firemen's boots than ever before. I would get on planes after 9/11, and you'd walk through first class, and you go, "You with me? You in on this?" You didn't know these people. That was a standard SOP. When you got on a plane, if any shit goes down, you with me? You're ready, right? And you'd say that to the guys, and the women would go, "I'm ready too."
Yeah.
But and we didn't know this. This was an environment. What happens is epigenetics happens. Bruce Lipton talked about this. All of a sudden, because our total environment changed up here, we triggered things that said, "I don't care. There are no more strangers. I may not know you in the airport. I may have walked by you 3 times at the bagel shop, but when you got on my plane, I needed to know, are you with me?" And instantly, the whole decision-making process changed because now it was a matter of my life. And can I count on you? Because if I can't, you go sit in the back. And I had people like
those actual conversations happening too.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Especially with men.
Yep. Now,
they actually had the conversation when they would sit on the plane. They're like, "Hey, something happens to the plane. Are we tackle them together? You're a big guy, I'm a big guy, we can do it."
Yep.
And you know who they didn't tell that to? Anybody who looked like they could possibly be Middle Eastern or Muslim.
Absolutely.
They would even confuse the Sikhs for being Muslim.
Yep.
Peace lovers.
Yeah, they'll know we're Christian by our love. Kumbaya. We love you. Oh, get in the back. You
look questionable.
That's right. Excuse me, stewardess. Could you move him? What? They'll know we're Christians by our love. I'm sorry. You just left church.
Yeah. Yeah, one headdress is the same as the other. I liked, I was listening to, I can't remember his name, but he's actually Indian and Muslim. But he was saying, he was like, for the Christians out there, y'all need to know that we're just as bad at our religion as you are. We don't follow everything in the book either. All right. Well, that is actually 10:13. I am glad we were able to save it, right? Thank you, Sean, for pulling through. And everyone give a nice little round of applause for Sean G. Murphy.
Yay, because my addiction to approval needed that. Yay.
Yay. Right? And I'm sure Scott, he's very sorry that he couldn't be there, but things happen, and business supersedes conversation sometimes, and that's awesome. And sometimes the internet just says "F you," right?
Meaning follow up.
Follow up. It says follow up and fix your connections, fix your headphones. It better not be these headphones. I love these headphones.
We're never going to live from a car again, right, Scott? I love that. We're going to go back and screenshot that because it was precious. It made me jump out of my skin going, I don't care what's on my calendar. I'm going to go. If I could fly down to the office because I know you're there. I'm here. What can we do?
Oh, goodness gracious. We do need to talk. We're gonna do some changes and we're gonna move, and I'm tired of waiting on different men and different companies to move forward. So we're definitely going to bring you on board. I know everybody adores you. And we appreciate having you today and learning about active listening and neuron connections. I always learn something when I talk to you.
Yeah, and so I'll leave you with one last thing. They can actually prove it's called neural resonance. We start talking about a subject and both our brains get in sync. When you get your prospects in that and you create neural resonance at literally vibrational frequency, that's why people fall in love with you, and that's why people do business with people they know, like, and trust. But it's really neural resonance, so there's science behind it. Thanks for letting me jump in and help and be of service today.
I don't know if that's how you spell it, but I tried.
That works for me, because God knows I'm a farm boy with a 0.9 grade point average. That works for me.
I'm a farm girl with a 4.23.
Yeah, overachiever. I'm an overachiever too. I'm in the 2% that made the top 98% possible.
On that note, bye guys.
Bye for now.
Y'all have a great day. Double Funnel TV, y'all.